All right, on a day when it was announced that David Cutcliffe, as winner of the Pinstripe Bowl last season, will come back to Yankee Stadium on May 13th to throw out the first pitch at the Yankees game, and also that Duke, this should be no surprise, excelling athletically, but more so academically, has the top APR in the country at 995 over the likes of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern, and Vanderbilt. We're here to talk Duke football with Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC. Mike, it's always a pleasure as we carve through the ACC during spring practice here. The Dukies wrapped it up on April 9th. Your thoughts, first off, starting at the quarterback position.
Yeah, so obviously Duke's losing their starting quarterback, Thomas Sirk, for the season. Back in February, he tore his Achilles. It's the second time he's done that. Very unfortunate injury, obviously, and one that Duke will have some issue coming back from. Obviously, when you lose your leading passer and your leading rusher off the team from a year ago, you'll have to go to some lengths to replace him. But they have a guy that's capable in Parker Boehm. He's a redshirt junior this coming season. Has some limited experience, 43 of 78 passing for 579 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception last year. Obviously, a much more limited role than what he's going to be thrust into this fall. Given the attrition at the quarterback position. The one thing that David Cutcliffe did mention over and over again this spring was the fact that he was really happy with how they recruited at quarterback and how his young quarterbacks were coming along. He's got 2 redshirt freshmen, Quentin Harris and Daniel Jones, that were quote-unquote competing with Parker Boehm for the starting quarterback job this fall, but Parker Boehm, as expected, received a majority of those snaps. So as of now, looks like Boehm's going to be the guy this fall to replace Thomas Sirk.
And Harris, actually the 22nd ranked dual threat quarterback out of Watertown, Connecticut. Daniel Jones, a big kid at 6'5", trying to fill out 183 pounds coming out of high school. So they could see some playing time as well, obviously needing some depth at quarterback. The wide receivers could certainly help out a new quarterback. How do we look at that position?
Yeah, so they got a couple of guys returning. Obviously, Max McCaffrey, him moving on and graduating, he had 52 catches and 643 yards last year and a team leading 5 touchdowns. Duke is obviously going to be looking to replace his production there at the -- receiver role. TJ Rahming is a guy last year as a freshman, stepped in, performed admirably, 43 catches, 579 yards. 571 yards, excuse me. That was second on the team last year, had 2 touchdown catches as well, including a 59-yarder in the middle of the season there. And he's the guy that's going to step in and take over as the #1 receiver. At least that's what they're expecting. Anthony Nash is another guy, a rising senior, 32 catches, 475 yards last season. He was the 3rd leading receiver. One guy, a new name, maybe to the casual college football fan, but of course not to Duke fans. They were very high on this recruit coming out of high school, is Keaston Fuller. He's a redshirt freshman this coming season. He earned the most improved player out of Duke spring practices. So obviously coaching staff is very high on his development here as he redshirted a year ago and will be looking to step foot on the playing field for the first time this fall.
Yeah, to segue to the tight ends, Mike, obviously Duke has utilized the tight ends quite a bit. Braxton Deaver and David Reeves move on after snatching 122 passes in their careers, 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns. So Duke's got a glut of prospective fill-ins at tight end, including a couple fifth-year seniors in Dan Bellinson, Eric Schneider also, who contributed 3 touchdown receptions and 15 catches. Daniel Helm, a guy that was recruited by and signed by Butch Jones at Tennessee, so you know that he's got some talent. He's going to vie for playing time at tight end as well after sitting out 2014 due to the transfer. At running back, Thomas Sirk, we talk about the loss of him as a quarterback. Obviously, he was key in the running game as the leading rusher, 8 touchdowns rushing, 59% passer, 16 through the air. They bring back Jela Duncan, they bring back Shaun Wilson, not big numbers from either one, but combined close to 1,000 yards at 460 and 424, 7 touchdowns combined. But we also hear that David Cutcliffe likes this kid, Nicodem Pierre, who ran 15 times last year for 76 yards. So he could take carries away from Duncan and from Wilson. But Duke, very opportunistic in recent years since they've been a winning ball club under Cutcliffe, Mike, on the defensive side of the ball, taking the ball away from their opponents, playing really smart, sound defense.
Yeah, definitely. Defense has definitely improved year after year with David Cutcliffe as coach, bringing in some of the better defensive recruits in the state of North Carolina. And he's also starting to recruit better outside of the state as well. So Duke is getting a lot of talent pulled in on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, losing safety Jeremy Cash to the NFL is a huge loss, given his athleticism, his ability to play not only in the secondary but close to the line and make plays in the running game, making stops on that side with the defense. But there are two redshirt freshman safeties of note that David Cutcliffe mentioned explicitly as being two guys that he saw a lot of improvement out of this spring. Redshirt freshmen Jordan Hayes and Brandon Feemster, two guys who are big 6'2", 6'3" bodies who showed their athleticism and were very good on that side of the ball this spring. Duke held a final scrimmage there to kind of close out spring practices. The defense, for what it's worth, I know the defense is generally ahead of the offense historically this time of year in spring practices, but the defense forced 3 turnovers, which is a really encouraging sign. They can continue turning their opponents over and have that carry over into the fall.
You know, David Cutcliffe, in addition to losing Jeremy Cash and the athleticism, the playmaking ability, he also mentioned the big loss comes in the leadership category. So he's looking for somebody or 2 or 3 group of players to step up on that defensive side of the ball. He said, he's got some candidates through spring practice, but he really wants to see 2 or 3 guys take charge in August. He talked about Devon Edwards, a kid that racked up 101 tackles last season, a couple sacks and an interception. AJ Wolf had 54 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. He was another guy that Cutcliffe mentioned, along with DeAndre Singleton with 79 stops and 6 tackles for loss. And Ben Humphrey's also a guy that could step into that leadership position for Duke. So we know that the Blue Devils have been resourceful in becoming one of the upper tier teams in the ACC, not with a lot of talent, but as you mentioned earlier, Mike, recruiting classes have been much better. A lot of 4-stars coming in over the last couple of recruiting classes for David Cutcliffe. So it's going to be interesting to see if that resourcefulness combined with better talent on the field comes to fruition for maybe another division championship this year. All right, Mike, good stuff. Join Mike McDaniel at Inside the ACC as we break down all the clubs around the conference over the next few weeks. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, thank you, Mark.